朋友们，最近萨克斯教授有一场连线对谈，而另一位嘉宾呢，就是大家非常熟悉和喜爱的台湾省的雷倩教授。我简单介绍一下雷倩，他的父亲呢是前中华民国的海军中将雷学明，他本人呢出生于新党，之后加入了国民党。他非常的优秀，台大毕业，是宾夕法尼亚大学的博士，这是真博士，不是蔡英文那种假博士。雷倩从政之前，在美国从事媒体工作多年，在37岁的时候就已经成为了美国广播公司 ABC 当时最年轻的副总裁。在2004年，他成功当选为第6届区域立法委员。2005年，他陪同连战出访了中国大陆，这是两岸时隔半个多世纪首次破冰之旅，也为之后这将近20年两岸的互动开启了良好的开端。为什么我非常欣赏雷倩女士呢？不仅仅因为她是统派，具有中华情怀，更重要的是她本人曾经是美国主流媒体的高管。大家都知道，我们经常看到的那些反华急先锋，很大一部分都来自于美国的媒体界，因为媒体是舆论和意识形态宣传的第一线，是执行西方反华政策的打手。而雷倩女士靠着自己的才能升任美国广播公司 ABC 的副总裁，可是她并没有因此被反华的思想所毒害，依旧保持着自己清醒的价值观，并在之后走上了政坛，成为维护两岸和平稳定、促进祖国统一的坚定力量。这一点非常的难得。在这一期的对谈节目中，萨克斯教授一再的呼吁台湾人民应该抵制美国的致命诱惑，拒绝成为乌克兰第二，不要为了美国的利益而让自己粉身碎骨。他的苦口婆心我们看在眼里，也非常的敬佩。我们经常给西方的知名人物起外号，比如川建国、拜振华。那么我也给萨克斯教授起一个外号，叫做萨士和。萨克斯教授一直以来都在倡导大国之间保持距离，携手维护世界和平，而非像米尔斯海默那样一直鼓吹大国竞争，鼓吹霸权战争。这一期的对谈，双方就台海问题展开讨论，内容非常精彩，分享给大家。
Joanna, how do you think that Taiwan's pluralistic system and society do you see hope that this can somehow manage a relationship with China and fend off this push towards the bayonets?
Well, I think the opposition parties have to stand up against the current ruling party to make sure that people's wishes, which is maintenance of status quo, is honored. However, I just want to add a couple of things. When Jeffrey said Taiwan can be this and that, I think Taiwan can be used as one other thing. It's to demonize mainland China. If mainland China does anything to Taiwan in any unfriendly ways, then look, Taiwan is the little rabbit and China is the big bad wolf. And the big bad wolf needs international sanction and needs to be condemned by the Western civilized society and so on and so forth. That's one. There is a new narrative. In the past, they kept saying we are the value partner, the best democratic examples in Asia, but they probably realized that the DPP is neither democratic nor progressive. It is an illiberal democracy in development. So they're adding one more narrative, that is, the Taiwan Strait is a very important lifeline. If there should be any problem, then the lifeline for the world economy will be damaged. So it gives another reason for international forces to be involved in Taiwan. So that's one. But I think the more you think about the U.S. overall strategy of not wanting another regional hegemon, which is your friend Mitch Heimer always used, they don't want any other regional hegemon to rise. It really happens when China started doing One Belt, One Road initiative in Beijing. Obama flew in and tried to stop every other country from joining in because they didn't want to have any other forces. At the same time, China realized that it has to really develop its technology, strengthen its military build out, and so on and so forth. with the imbalance between the military might, especially in the West Pacific. If you look at the repivot to Asia, United States plan to put 60% of its maritime forces in the West Pacific, but it's so much behind what China is building in terms of its maritime forces. Therefore, they have changed in the Biden administration to the two main strategy. One is distributed maritime operation. The other is expeditionary advanced base operation, meaning use these little islands as their advanced bases to direct missiles and major fleets. If they continue to push this strategy, DMO and the EABO, then we are in real bad danger because we are in the middle of the first island chain. In the 1850s to 70s, that's what America wanted to do. Seize Taiwan so that you can control the 7 provinces in the southeast part of China. And also you control the entry into the Okinawa Trout. You control the entry to the Taiwan Strait and the Bashi Strait. So all the major choke points can be secured in the US sense if they continue to have a very strong presence of military control in Taiwan, and they can then fend off mainland China. If that were really the US grand strategy, then Taiwan is doomed to be a flashpoint because mainland China will not allow such a strong military presence of the United States in an island so close to mainland China, just as the United States wouldn't want Cuba to be used by the Soviet Union for their missile base. It's the same analogy, and it shouldn't repeat itself again.
Absolutely, and brilliantly put. I completely, totally concur. And how easy it would be to avoid conflict. The United States does not have to put its nose inside China's tent, inside China's business. The Soviet Union didn't have to put its missile systems in Cuba. Not a good idea. It nearly brought us to nuclear annihilation. I strongly advise Russia and China don't put military bases on the Rio Grande in Mexico, even if the Mexican government asks for it. Don't do it. It's not a good idea. If the United States has any sense at all, any sense of prudence at all, which is unfortunately doubtful, don't get into the middle of this because you want peace, don't provoke. And from what Joanna said about the U.S. claiming how crucial the sea lanes are, yeah, they're crucial for China. China's not going to allow these choke points designed and declared by the United States. You read them in U.S. documents. We have choke points on China. China's not going to sit there and let itself be choked to death economically or in the flow of food imports or energy imports. But why would there be a conflict? Only if we provoke a conflict. The waterways will remain open unless we provoke them to be closed. And the idea that we must provoke because otherwise China will take over the world is, first of all, it's a projection because it's the US that wants to run the world, sorry to say, not China. China never in its 2,225-year history since unification has ever tried to run the world. But it's the US that makes this projection. But this is an absurdity. Nobody can run the world across the oceans, across the vast spaces. China's no threat to the United States. China is no threat militarily to the United States unless we have a nuclear war with each other. Are we crazy? So if we just have a little bit of prudence, we'll stay out of each other's way. And this is what I say to my friend John Mearsheimer, just keep a space between the powers, and then we can avoid nuclear Armageddon. Just a little space, a little prudence. But again, it's so important for the Taiwanese people. Just please be careful. Don't listen to to the U.S. on this. Are you kidding? Look at a map. Be sensible. Be grown up. Make a consensus across the straits and say to your U.S. friends, please be careful, but we're okay. We're okay. Please don't provoke us into fighting with our next door neighbor.
Let me just add, when I went to Germany and talked to the sort of economic elites there, they expected me to say, oh, we are so terrified by this big bad wolf next door. Please come and help us. And they were extremely surprised by the fact that I told them we were entirely capable of dealing with our own matters. Just don't meddle us. We can and we have 8 years of direct negotiation between government agencies and signed agreements. They were totally shocked. They thought we were there to ask for help, much like Zelensky did. Help us defend your democracy and defend the Western civilization. They expected me to say that. But I think it's important for people like Jeffrey and Pascal that you have a voice. You can let people know that we can, and we have been able to deal with our situation. And don't just listen to the current ruling party because they represent less than 30% of the population. But they have, because of our inadequate system, they have the huge voice internationally. And the other silent cries are not heard. And furthermore, if Biden did something in his judgment was the best for the country, Trump said US and China can solve a lot of problems, whether he means it or not mean it. But it is true. China has developed a great EV industry, very good zero carbon kind of initiatives. It's strong in space and deep space. It's doing quantum computing, AI. All these things can help us resolve our issues as human beings and can save humanities and not just a nuclear Armageddon like Jeff was saying. And it is important to have the United States turning its head to look at China in a different way as a potential partner to solve issues of the world. And the only time I saw that happening was in those disaster movies, 2012 and all these others, when you have foreign invasion or aliens coming down to the Earth. United States will work with other powers. But we are at that brink already. We have so many problems that we cannot resolve. Human beings and humanities are at risk. So why not let the powers resolve their small little perspective issues and work in concert to help the rest of us?